In 1984, Nissan was changed forever when two prolific tuning companies merged to form Nissan Motorsport, and thus began the legacy of speed that was NISMO. Ever since their first car, the Saurus, NISMO has been tuning Nissan's most boring and most fun cars to the moon. And in this vid, I wanted to go through every one of them and rank them from worst to best. And no NISMO car is a slouch. Even our worst car on this list, although anemic, is still pretty cool. And that car is the March NISMO S. The incredibly cute little hatchback that came with only 79 horsepower out of the factory got bumped up by NISMO to 114, which really helps the March be a whole lot more fun, but I don't know if it's quite hot hatch territory yet. Still, it's a fun, plucky little car that NISMO did make better, and it deserves a spot on this list. Now, going from one of the cheapest cars Nissan's ever made to a very expensive one, the Nissan Patrol NISMO is the souped-up SUV you didn't know you needed. Now, you've probably never heard of the Nissan Patrol if you're an American like me, because they weren't sold here in the US. But they are essentially the same as an Infiniti QX80 sold here in the States. Now, the NISMO edition of the Patrol had souped up suspension, a little more power, but let's be honest here, they were basically putting lipstick on a pig. This was probably not the job that NISMO was the most excited to work on. Thus, you get the kind of lukewarm, big, bulky SUV with a body kit and some wheels that is the NISMO Patrol. Alright, enough of the really crappy cars. I know there are a lot of fans out there of the Nissan Sentra, and the NISMO edition of it might be one of the best ever made. The Sentra is and always has been Nissan's affordable sedan, and it's been around for generations. And in 2017, they decided that they wanted to make a NISMO edition of that affordable sedan. And they gave it the one thing that could actually make me excited about a Sentra, and that's a turbo, pumping up the NISMO edition Sentra up to 188 horsepower, with 177 foot-pounds of torque going to the front wheels. Which, you know, is no record breaker, but does make this Sentra kind of exciting, and luckily we can get them here in the States. Up next, we're gonna sing a different tune. That's right, we're going to talk about the Note e-Power NISMO S, which is a whole hell of a lot of words to say a spiced up fuel economy hatchback. You see, the e-Power is electric powered and gas fed. It's kind of the perfect combination if you live in a small city. It takes the gasoline to power the electric motors and the electric motors to power the wheels. In 2016, when the e-Power NISMO came out, it didn't have any performance upgrades because maybe they were still trying to figure out how to upgrade a hybrid. But 2 years later, NISMO did find a way to get 25% more power out of the e-Power, which took this Note up to 136 horsepower, which is just an embarrassing number. On tap were 236 foot-pounds of torque. But power was never the Note's significance. The best part of the Note was that it was incredibly lightweight, coming in at around 2,700 pounds, which for those of you keeping score out there is about as light as a Corolla AE86, and is incredibly lightweight for a hybrid or electric powered car. I mean, the Nissan Leaf tips the scales at around 3,400 pounds. Sure, I know you guys kind of are controversial about electric powered cars. And up next is a car that is super controversial just for how it looks. I'm talking about the JUKE NISMO RS. I know you guys are gonna say this is maybe one of the ugliest cars in the world, but honestly, personally, I love it. I just love that bug eye styling. It's probably why the bug eye is my favorite generation of WRX. And thankfully the team at NISMO liked it too, because they decided to go all out on this car. The NISMO RS came packed with grippy Recaro seats, a responsive 6-speed 3-pedal transmission, and a handling package that transformed the JUKE into a funky little track car. For right around 10 to 15,000 bucks, you can get one of these and have yourself an autocross slaying animal right out of the box, all wrapped up in a quirky and controversial package. You'll at least get a like from me on Instagram. What makes the NISMO RS really special is that it comes with 215 horsepower and 210 foot-pounds of torque out of the box, which rockets the little JUKE up to 60 in about 6.5 seconds, which isn't gonna break your neck, but you know, it's still a little fun. But if you ask me, the best JUKE in the world is definitely the JUKE R. Now, it's not a NISMO car, but I felt I should mention it here because it's just insane. It's a JUKE with a 545 horsepower GT-R motor stuffed under the hood with an all-wheel drive platform. Sadly, good luck buying one because they're around 600,000 bucks and there's only a couple of them in existence. Now, next up is a car that's sure to put a smile on your face. I know you guys love these cars. We're gonna talk about the S14 270R. You see, back in 1994, the SILVIA SILVIA was popping in Japan, and Nissan wanted to go all out. They made so many editions of the S14. The J's, the K's, the Q's, and S's scattered the Nissan lineup, with horsepowers ranging from around 100 to over 200, which made the car exciting, but not all that much to talk about. Enter NISMO, which helped push their edition of the S14 up to 270 horsepower. Now sadly, NISMO at the time was busy competing in Le Mans, Daytona, Sebring, and more, so only about 50 270Rs made it out of their factory doors, meaning that the performance and limited production numbers of this car make it really special on the used car market. You're probably not going to buy one of these. Now, one car that's going to be a lot easier to get your hands on is a 350Z, and the NISMO R-Tune edition of that is something special. You see, at the turn of the century, when everyone was freaking out about Y2K, NISMO was in their factory behind closed doors coming up with something really special, the 350Z, a whole new take on a cheap sports car. And when it released, Nissan immediately knew they had a winner on their hands. But it wasn't until NISMO got their hands on it that the Z really started to come alive. 2 years after the Z's initial launch, the NISMO R-Tune came to be. The R-Tune package includes new headers, cams, pulleys, and of course a whole plethora of special NISMO parts that make it an entire experience. This was not just a simple little upgrade. Now, sadly, if you bought one of these new, buying the R-Tune actually voided your factory warranty, which is pretty silly because NISMO's the factory tuning division. But who cares about that today? You ain't gonna get the warranty now. Now, next up might be one of the most important NISMO cars of all time because it practically started NISMO. And I am of course talking about the Nissan R31 GTS-R Group A. It was 1987 and the auto industry was recovering from the oil crisis. Cars were small, engines were weak, but still, Nissan wanted to go racing. And without a homologation car, they would not be able to compete. And Nissan was competing in the Group A Touring Championship, racing against the likes of Ford in the CRRS 500 and Holden with the V8 Commodore. In comes the GTS-R, packing the legendary RB20 DET and a bunch of go-fast bits, giving the competition car up to 400 horsepower. Now, sadly, the street car has about half that, around 200. But still, this car on the street is something incredibly special. And one you often don't hear about because its more famous younger brother, the R32 GTR. But without the R31, we may have never gotten the R32 Godzilla. And of course, without Godzilla, we might not have gotten the NISMO 380 RS. Based off the already fantastic 350Z platform, this is another special edition 350Z coming out of NISMO. Sadly, this one was only offered in Japan, but it was the most powerful road-going 350Z you could buy from the factory, coming in at 348 horsepower and 293 foot-pounds of torque. The 380 RS was a rocket ship, and just like a rocket ship, you're not going to be able to buy one because there's probably only around 300 of these on the street, and they're probably all in Japan. So enjoy some footage of one. Luckily, you can buy this next car in the streets in America today, and that's because we're talking about the NISMO 370Z. Look, the new Z is right around the corner. It's definitely worth considering buying the current generation of Z right now, because let's face it, you probably can't afford the new one. And if you're gonna buy a 370Z today, the NISMO edition is probably what you should be looking at. You see, between the looks, the performance, and the value, the NISMO 370Z is track-proven perfection, setting a Nürburgring lap time of 8 minutes and 11 seconds, which is faster than a Ferrari F355, or a Lotus Exige S, at just a fraction of the cost of either of those. And let's be honest, a lot more reliability. For 25,000 bucks used today, the NISMO 370Z might be one of the best bang for buck performance cars out there right now. Now, of course, I know you've all been waiting for this. Now we're gonna talk about the GTR, but not the one you probably wanna talk about. The R35 GTR NISMO edition. Look, in 2008, this was the most badass, most fierce, most powerful, fastest Nissan you could buy. Jesus, 2008, some of you were born back then, and the R35 is still for sale? That's insane. Still, it's clear to see why it's lasted so long. The R35 edition is basically if a computer could be a car. Its incredible performance and systems means that pretty much anyone can be a race car driver. Even the base model R35 is an incredible machine, but the NISMO one is just a bit better. Packing 600 horsepower and upgraded aero, the NISMO GTR is bonkers. And it's over a full minute faster on the ring than that 370Z I just talked about, setting the fastest production car lap record on the ring when it happened. And who do we have to thank for the R35? Well, of course, we gotta look back at the R32 and the special edition R32 GTR, the R32 GTR NISMO. which is obviously just a more badass version of the already amazing and legendary iconic R32 GT-R. You see, the NISMO edition was a homologation special for the Group A Touring Car Championship that Nissan was competing in, which anybody that knows about homologation means limited production numbers, which of course means that there's only 500 of these ever made. With the NISMO edition of the R32, you could get it in any color as long as it was gray. But who cares what color it was? All you need to know is it had an RB26 and a 5-speed transmission, basically a match made in heaven. The NISMO edition came with larger turbochargers, special aerodynamics, and a lightened body for improved performance. And believe me, Nissan knew what they were doing here. When the R32 GT-R Group A came out, it won every single race of the season, every single one, which is how it earned that nickname from the Australians, Godzilla. And if the R32 GT-R Group A was Godzilla, well, the R33 400R was Mecha Godzilla, packing a very special, bigger RB. The 400R, as its name implies, pushed out 400 horsepower. That RB28 was so special. It was sourced from the GT1 class Nissans that raced in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So not only was that engine powerful and fast, it actually has a lot of clout. Sadly, only 44 of these legendary R33s were ever sold. And honestly, the only reason most of us know about this is games like Gran Turismo. But is it the best Skyline? No. The most legendary, the best NISMO product ever to come out is of course the R34 Skyline GT-R Z-Tune. $500,000. That is the price you would expect to pay for an ultra-rare performance Ferrari. But a Nissan? It's gotta be something special. So what makes the Z-Tune worth so much damn money? Well, it's the best of the best. NISMO took an already fully specced out R34 Skyline GT-R NERSpec 2 and added even more seasoning, pumping the R34 Skyline up to 500 horsepower, which is double what the base GT-R claimed it had. Once again featuring the RB28 out of the Nissan Racing division. The Z-Tune marks the culmination of 20 years of NISMO's tuning knowledge. And of course, why else would it be worth $500,000? Well, there's only freaking 20 of them. So once again, you can pretty much only enjoy this car in a video game. So that's my list of some of my favorite NISMO cars ever made. What do you think of the list? What did I forget? Where would you rank your choices? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, keep checking out our content. We bring it out like every other freaking day. It's free. So, you know, like, subscribe, buy a t-shirt, support the channel. It's up here, it's over there, whatever. And as always, keep living the ideal lifestyle.